The VTuber boom of 2020 mostly affected Hololive more so compared to everyone else. It's why for some time now, they've been looked at as the trendsetters of the modern industry, the biggest force in the community. And while Hololive's popularity was a tidal wave that lifted all boats, there was one boat that struggled to put its foot down on the international community for a long time now. That boat being Hololive's friendly rival in the VTuber scene, NIJISANJI. While in Japan, NIJISANJI was still king, Hololive was rapidly catching up, and quite honestly, their EN branch more than outperformed everyone else. This resulted in NIJISANJI breaking down their Indian branch, which I've covered before was the original NIJISANJI EN. And once they did, their new English branch wasn't actually a half-assed attempt at expanding now. They gave them original songs and they were very loud about their debuts. They were actually being serious. Lazulite, Obsidia, Etheria, these are good additions and great VTubers to add to the VTuber industry's roster, but they've never been really able to pick up their own pace or even properly compete with other big corpos, even with VShoujo back in 2021. The gap between them and Hololive and VShoujo was just colossal. While they were doing really well for their domestic branch, for some time now, NIJISANJI had some trouble in opening and even maintaining other branches. NIJISANJI Indonesia, while they had their powerhouses and was stable for the most part, didn't really accomplish anything significant. NIJISANJI Korea was a clusterfuck of terrible management and harassment allegations. NIJISANJI India was, as you know, an absolute failure, and while Virtua Real was a relative success, NIJISANJI Shanghai and Taipei existed, and it collapsed. For some time now, NIJISANJI had some grand ambitions, but they've never really had the marketing, technical, or the hiring talent or the capital to achieve them. And for a while, it seemed like this unsustainable pace was going to be their fate. Until 2022 came, baby! Yeah, baby! With the advent of Luxiem, NIJISANJI has been snowballing dubs this year, growing bigger than it ever was and bathing in more money than it ever did. Truly, 2022 was the agency's own golden year, their own little VTuber boom, and while I talked about Luxiem already back in March, which, by the way, is really outdated and some of them are even wrong upon further inspection, in this video, I'm going to be talking about how all of this happened. So as the year is about to come to a close, I want you all to sit the fuck down. Let's do some history. Luxiem wasn't really an instant success. Before they came along, NIJISANJI EN's fanbase was small, relatively speaking. So when they debuted, they were greeted by only 20,000 people on average. 20,000 people isn't really a number to scoff at as a regular VTuber, but in the world of big corpos, that many people for a debut isn't particularly big. No, Luxiem's success was a slow burn. At a very consistent pace, they managed to increase their notoriety in the coming weeks. When all of a sudden, Luxiem's original song reached 1 million views on YouTube and even on Bilibili, which was actually kind of unprecedented, especially given that something like this happening wasn't exactly normal in the EN branch. That was when Mista and the boys started realizing that females were mostly the ones watching their streams. While this was most likely unintentional, they've managed to capture an entirely new fanbase, and this would dictate their direction for the next few months. Because of course, if you have a particular kind of fanbase, you're going to have to make content that caters to that kind of fanbase. And when they started doing random stuff and making banger tweets, when Mista started getting memed to hell and back because of his interactions with Uncle Roger, Luxiem's fanbase spiked. All of a sudden, Luxiem started getting an abnormally high engagement rate on Twitter for VTubers their size, which prompted management to also advise other members in the branch to do what they were doing. As they dug themselves into this niche more and more, they finally realized something. While in NIJISANJI, Kozuha was their biggest talent at this time, his fanbase was majority male and overwhelmingly Japanese. So, taking on to a new direction, instead of catering to the traditional male simps, they should fully capitalize on the market that no one else was able to tap all this time: the female demographic. Their market size was smaller compared to males, yes, but they're thirstier, just as loyal, and are arguably much more parasocial and unpredictable. And thus began NIJISANJI's new direction specifically for their male EN talents. Instead of catering to a market that was already saturated, they were going somewhere different. And it was more than worth it in the end. Noctix became massive in this field too, but while they took on a less parasocial stance, they were still powerhouses in their fields. The boys' rise during this period in time was in increments and not exactly explosive. They were consistently rising to the top of their niches until all of a sudden, the boys surpassed the NIJI-EN girls in sub count, regular viewership, and even super chat revenue. For the first half of 2022, the boys have absolutely dominated the super chat ranking. In fact, they dominate the super chat ranking for this entire year. A very powerful achievement, especially considering that in the past few years, Hololive was always at the top. And while all of this growth may seem like it's only affecting the boys, it's not. This was a wave that lifted all boats too. Because since their meteoric rise, the girls have also found themselves growing faster in terms of sub count, viewership, and overall engagement as well. The boys' success trickled down to all of the girls. But it doesn't end there. Because while things were going well for their EN branch, something unexpected took roots in the Japanese side of NIJISANJI. Something that was going to far surpass even the boys' achievements. And that something took the form of a NEET pretending to be a proper lady, who took up the Japanese internet by storm, awoke the VTuber fanbases of old, and broke multiple world records. And what makes all of this better is the fact that absolutely no one has any idea how any of it happened. That someone is none other than Hyakuman Tenbara Salome. This girl was born out of a joke and was perhaps hyped by a joke. In fact, right now some people are still waiting for the punchline. This woman came out of nowhere and blew everyone out of the water. For entire weeks, her live viewership was consistently above 120k live viewers, and her subscriber count reached 1 million in 14 days, which is this year's most impressive achievement in VTuber history so far. I made an entire video about her growth, so I don't want to repeat everything I've said in that video. Go watch it. Unlike the Luxiem video, that one is still relevant. But it doesn't end here, because you see, NIJISANJI has been heavily criticized in the past for having something of a rapid-fire strategy in terms of their member debuts, debuting multiple talents in short periods of time, to a point of absolutely not giving them any room to breathe and grow, and stretching their core audience too thin. And yeah, while I recognize that their point is to have multiple VTubers cover multiple niches and that you're supposed to only watch whom you want to watch, I still think this is valid criticism. It bloats your roster, ultimately not good for business, and individual VTubers are going to feel like you're not taking good care of them. Which is why I think it's a good thing that NIJISANJI has been slowing down VTuber debuts this entire year. Relative to other VTuber agencies, they've debuted more members across different branches, but the spaces between them is actually more decent now. They're taking their sweet time to think of more strategies, to advise their talents, to make them do projects they want to do pre-debut, give them room to actually breathe and strategize. They're not actually just shotgunning and dumping VTubers out there in the wild like what they used to do. Which is why iLuna was set up to be the most hyped VTuber group debut this entire year. They were the loudest, made global headlines, and was trending worldwide. So far, it was this year's most loud and successful debut ever. Overall, I think they had a lot of action and dubs this year compared to previous years. Aside from these massive achievements, they've also broke VTubing's most viewed stream this year with their baseball tournament stream. For a long time, NIJISANJI has always lagged behind their competitors in the EN scene. But with their collective successes this year, they've now stepped up and are able to compete on even grounds. Hell, they even crushed the competition in some aspects. I honestly think this year was theirs to shine. And hopefully other VTubers and companies are able to reflect on what made 2022 NIJISANJI's golden year.